So what we're going to talk about today is number one, layer, and number two, Revit, and number three, how we can start harvesting fantastic data from Revit directly in layer. So keep in mind, as we go through the webinar, you can get all this great Revit information without ever having to open up that Revit model. So we get very excited to be able to connect those non-Revit users to that Revit data. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump in. All right, so just a quick background on Layer. We're based here in beautiful Lincoln, Nebraska. Our partner, Zach Soflin, is actually a registered architect here in Lincoln. And our parent company, BVH Architecture, was actually awarded a very large project from the Nebraska State Capitol. What that entailed was a historic preservation and an HVAC renovation as well. So Zach and his team had to go over to the state capitol, survey 1,300 rooms, 1,100 windows, 57 data points per room, and they were doing it at that point with a camera and a clipboard. So very quickly, Zach and his team realized there's got to be a better way. We have all this great field data, whether it be pictures or notes or tasks, but at the end of the day, it's not connected to the tools we actually use to design, which in this case is Revit. So we're excited to see the interconnectivity between the two platforms. So a couple things to note as we go through this. Number one, Layer is extremely flexible. Zach actually made a very good intention to keep this a little bit more wide open, knowing that every firm is going to work a little bit differently, and even project managers within those firms are going to work differently as well. And so what we really truly want to do is understand your workflow, understand your problem to be solved, and then customize the Layer experience around your specific workflows. So again, everyone works differently. One of the biggest advantages with Layer is we'll customize it around your specific workflow. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is as we move through, you're going to very quickly realize how Layer becomes one central source of truth for all your project data. So instead of things living in emails and Excel spreadsheets and Slack accounts, what we're able to do is pull all that ancillary data together in one central source of truth. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into the platform. So right now you are looking at my project page. These are simply all the projects associated with my email address. And I'm going to go down and choose my example project. All right, so what we have here is now your project-specific dashboard. So we're looking at the dashboard for the example project. Now, the way Layer is organized is first by categories. So over here on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a variety of different categories. So categories can be both tangible items like windows or doors or fixtures, rooms, or they can be intangible items such as work orders or sheets or red lines. So keep in mind, whatever kind of data you would like to collect, we'll first organize those on a category level. Now, an important thing to note here, as you see the little Revit R's by my categories, that means these data points or these parameters are being pulled directly from your model, whether it be a central model or on BIM 360, and it has a one-to-one relationship from Revit over to Layer. So again, you're going to start to realize without ever having to touch that model, I now have access to all this great, rich Revit data. So what we're going to do is we will start with our rooms category. You can see that we have 121 rooms in our category. And what this does is this now brings up every room within my project. With our search key, it makes it very easy to find the room or the element that you're looking for. For this case, I'm going to go ahead and select Admin 126. Now, this is where things start to get really exciting. So on the right-hand side, you're going to see a variety of different things that we call contextualized data. Fields, files, notes, tasks, and activities. Let's start with the fields first. So what we want to do with the fields is enable you to collect the information you care about in the way you want to digest it. So the way I've customized this form is almost for an existing conditions. So as I go down this form data, you're going to see that I have fields like room photos, general room conditions, any punch list items. I might have materials actually preloaded directly in my layer app. If I scroll further down, there's one important field that I'd like to discuss very quickly. Is called related items. What this gives the ability to the user to do is start to aggregate different data from different categories. So in this case, I've got a category specifically for AV equipment. I now have that related or tied in to my rooms category. So at a very quick glance, I'm able to see other categories, elements directly in my form. So for example, with the related items, I'm now able to see I've got an overhead projector. I've got the total cost of what the AV might happen to be. I've got any coordination issues listed specifically with admin 126. We also have room metadata, so things like last updated by, or like when was the last time it was updated. We also start to display Revit parameters, again, directly in your layer application. So things like room areas, Revit phase can be now directly from your Revit model over to layer. Now, the nice thing is, again, the flexibility of the platform allows you to customize each and every form. So what we're going to do to start customizing this is we'll go to our little hamburger outline icon, and this is going to bring up 22 ground level tools that we will begin to build out the form we talked about on the right-hand side. So all kinds of different forms we can select from. Things like barcode. So we have operations teams and FF&E teams now using the barcode for asset management or preventative maintenance. So it's a very quick and easy way to start getting, again, that information with a click of the button. We have things like the Revit parameters, email input, which are very self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and add a field here. So if we're going to do, let's just do an email input. And email, we're going to save that field. Now, when we go down to the bottom of our form, you can see I've got my email form in there. Now, the nice thing is, once this template is set for admin 126, it is then deployed across every other category or every other element in your room. Very simply said, if you were now to come to admin 127, instead of recreating the wheel, all that form data is right there, all deployed across all your elements. So it'll save you the extra steps of recreating the wheel, and everything's going to be set and ready to go once that's done. Let's go ahead and move on to files. Files is a very important part of the layer platform. So when you think of files, I want you to think of any kind of file type you can upload, whether it be a PDF, a DWG, a drawing set. We actually have clients out in the field that are using drone footage for survey purposes. They're able to come back, directly upload that information into layer, and again, very quickly realize that the layer platform becomes one central source of truth for everything with your project. Now, the nice thing is we have mobile applications. So whether it be iOS, Android, whatever kind of phone or tablet you might have, we've got an app for it. The mobile application looks exactly like it does on the web-based version. Same features, functionality, and look. Now, the difference here is with the files. So back to my capital example, during the duration of that project, we had over 40,000 pictures that needed to be cataloged in different spots. Well, the difference was when the project manager, Julie, went over, she then had to come back to the office, download all the pictures from the phone, and sort and sift everywhere that it needs to be in the right file. What we've done is we've taken the step to eliminate that process. With my mobile app, I'm able to pull up my layer app. I'm going to be dialed in to admin 126 in my example project. When I hit add field or add a file, it's going to automatically pull up my camera. And we will use this. I'm going to hit use photo. And then very quickly, you're going to see the photo I just took is now automatically captured to admin 126. So again, instead of coming back and sorting and sifting, with one click of the button, all the information, all my data is automatically exactly where I need to be. Now I can take it a step further. So I've got my picture or my file type. I can click on that. It automatically brings up that file directly in app. So we're now bouncing back and forth between windows. And now we can start making annotations. So if we do some red lines here, we want to make some annotations. We want to start taking some notes on the file as well. The nice thing about this is it's all done in real time. So you can have someone out in the field, when she's taking the pictures or uploading those files, you can be back in the office, see in real time as she uploads this, make the annotations, and hopefully facilitate the conversation around the same thing at the same time without the emails and texts and Slack messages going back and forth. So a really quick and easy way to keep your team in lockstep with all the files. And again, unlimited file types and unlimited storage comes with the Layer application. Notes. So again, back to my capital example, Julie, our project manager, is absolutely famous for taking 60-page meeting notes. And it's arduous, but again, she takes the notes in the field, comes back in the office, and then has to sort and sift through different Word documents or Excel documents to make sure it's in the right place. With Layer, we're simply able to come down, submit a note, and you'll see exactly that, again, it was tagged to admin 126. The main reason we're going to use this is I have clients saying time and time again, they understand that we've made a decision, but we don't know what that why was behind the decision. With the notes, we're able to come back, do a full audit of the activity, and realize why that decision was made. Tasks. Obviously, we have our files, we've got our copious amounts of notes. Now it's time to start telling our key stakeholders what to expect or what task needs to be done. I can come down, I can create a task, I can then assign a person. I'll assign myself here. I can assign a due date, say next week, and I submit that task. Now, the wonderful thing about this, as soon as I'm mentioned in the Layer app, I then get an in-app notification that I've been assigned a task or mentioned in the Layer app. When I open up that application, it'll take me to exactly where I need to be to complete the task or know where that attention needs to be. I come to my app on my desktop and I simply click off as those tasks go. Now, the last thing I'd like to speak about with the contextual data is the idea of an activity log. We know there is so much activity that happens within the site, when it happens back in the office, everyone doing different things at different times. What Layer gives you the ability to do is now come through and do a full audit specific to admin 126. So you can now see that I changed the ceiling material, admin 126, from open to gypsum. Again, it'll notate all the changes. If for some reason something isn't done right or we need to reset those values, we can very quickly and easily hit the reset value, and that goes back to the original part. A lot of the clients are using this for training purposes. So if we have a new person that joins the team, she's out doing some kind of audit, there's some kind of issue with the consistency of the data collection, we're now able to go back through our activity log, address those problems, and be more efficient moving forward. Now, we've just updated our dashboard about 3 days ago, so we're very excited about some of these new functionalities. So it's great to have a list of all the rooms, but let's say I want to start getting a quick view of the things in those rooms. What we now have the ability to do is start to customize these cards. And so as I go through and I start to click on the different things I want represented, you can see very quickly now my cards actually are pulling that data directly into my dashboard for reference. If you scroll down, instruction 205, I can see sealed concrete, plaster, and tile base. So again, we want to give the users the ability to completely customize their view, their dashboard, to make them that much more efficient. A couple more things to point out here. We obviously have sorting elements. So if you want, again, a particular view, how you want to sort these cards, we have the ability to do that. Another fantastic feature we just introduced was the idea of filters. So again, if I have a specific something that I want to see, Now through the features or through the filter functionality, I can now start to select different options to see. So it makes it very quickly, very easy and quickly to get the information you care about when you want it. If I were to go back out here to my main dashboard, a couple things to point out here. Get rid of that. All right. So if we go down here and we click on Files, this will now give you a whole running list of every file you have associated with your project. The same for notes, tasks, and activities. Now, before we jump over to the Revit side, I want to quickly mention the idea of reports. I talk to client after prospect after prospect that spend hours each and every week reformatting reports. They get the information from Excel or a CSV, and then they have to take a very manual effort to reformat it either for an internal use or external use. What we now have the ability to do is start to create reports. So with this, we can start to report on any kind of category, any kind of elements associated with that category. And we also see we can either do an output of either a CSV, a PDF, or an Excel document. The PDF is a very nice option because it gives the user the opportunity to put pictures in there, notes, and tasks, the information that needs to be communicated to the outside key stakeholders, a very nice way to not only slice and dice the information, but give you a beautiful output to then share with your team. All right, so that is the basics of layer. So again, I hopefully you start to see how we start to integrate the Revit data directly into layer. But let's take it a step further. So what we're going to do now is dive into a Revit model. So the way we would start everything to start the marriage between layer and Revit, we would simply come to a layer add-in within Revit. We would click on the attach model. And what this now does is this brings up a full list of every parameter I have associated with my project. That can be both standard parameters and custom parameters. Now, the thing to note, as I come through and start clicking on the boxes or the different parameters, once I hit attach model, that means there's now a one-to-one relationship with every change done in Revit will now be represented within layer. So the nice thing is, once things are changed in Revit, my best example is if you change a wall and it affects the square footage of 4 different rooms, as soon as that change is done in Revit, everything is then automatically pushed over into the layer application. So take, for example, you have a GC on site. He or she does not have access to the Revit model. What we now have the ability to do is make our changes in Revit. He or she opens up the layer application and sees all those changes in Revit without ever touching a model. The other nice thing about loading up these models, obviously you're working with outside key stakeholders. So whether you have multiple models, you have an architectural, a structural, an MEP, what we have the ability to do is upload multiple models to one project. Then you have the ability to come back and again, slice and dice the information you want represented in your layer app. Now, this is never a one-time thing. If you'd like to come back out, resync different elements or resync different parameters, you have the full capability to do that whenever you would like. Now, I already have this model attached, so I'm going to hit cancel. Now, this is where some of the magic starts to happen between the two systems. As you can see, as I'm navigating around on my Revit model, very quickly you will see that my layer dashboard now navigates to exactly where I need to be within my Revit model. So we've spent all the time collecting the data, whether it be the room photos, deficiency photos, general room conditions. And now with the click of the button, all of that contextualized data is now surfaced to the top so you have direct access. So instead of bouncing back and forth between Excel and emails, with one click of the button, you are simply taken to all the information you spent all that time collecting. So one more example, we have a lot with, obviously cut sheets are a big thing. So if I went back to Lounge 223, back to my AV example, I can see again, I've got my overhead projector, but let's take it a step further. So if I were to click on this, Get to my overhead projector. Now I have the make, I have the model, I have access to a PDF cut sheet right here at my fingertips. So again, instead of wasting time digging through different file folders, everything is right here and accessible for all. Let's talk about a couple ways that we can not only push information from Revit to Layer, but also vice versa. The first thing I want to speak about is the Layer reference points. A lot of my clients are using this for coordination issues. So I'm going to select coordination issues. You can see that I've had 52 before. It'll automatically pre-populate to 53. When I click on that, this will now give me what I like to call my red pin. I'm able to drop this annotation directly in my Revit model. And again, this will now have a direct correlation with Layer. So think about the punch walkthrough. As I'm going through, I'm making annotations. Now I can tell my GC or my key stakeholders where the information is, what needs to be done, who we're going to assign it to, when it needs to be done, location, everything else. So again, a very quick way to start representing things in Revit and then push it over to Layer. Let's talk about the sync parameters. So what we're going to do is let's go back into Lounge 223. And as I previously noted, we have things, base materials, ceiling materials, already loaded up into Layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to change these different materials. So we'll go to wood trim, we'll go to open, and the wall material to plaster. All right, so when we go to our sync parameters button, what this is going to do is say, okay, Jeff, you were just in Lounge 223. You've made 3 changes to the wall finish, the base finish, and the ceiling material. When I hit connect, I'm going to pull down my identity data here. So when I go back up, we're going to sync parameters. When I hit accept those 4 changes, you're going to see my identity data automatically got updated. So again, it's very manual process before coming up and or coming back to the office, doing a one-to-one sync your information to the parameters to Revit. What Layer gives you the ability to do with one click of the button, you're able to do an entire sweep of all parameters from your Layer account over to Revit. Now we take a couple extra steps of authentication here because we understand people get very protective of their model, and we understand. So we want to make sure, are you sure you want to sync those parameters? And we'll go a step further. You can give people different permissions and either allow them to sync parameters or not allow them to sync parameters. So again, you have complete control. Along those same lines, let's talk about link elements. So my best use case here is if I'm out on site and I discover a storage closet on site that was not yet represented within my Revit model. The nice thing about Layer is now it's going to say, all right, Jeff, here are the rooms that you have associated within your Layer that are not yet linked to your Revit model. As I click on this room, it will now give me the ability to link that element where it needs to be in my Revit model. So again, this is an example of being able to collect the data on your Layer application and then come back to the office and sync that up to your Revit model. So you'll start to see the bi-directional information going back and forth, not just from Revit to Layer, but Layer to Revit as well. The other thing we'll point out here is just the live link. If you don't want to keep everything in sync, as far as when I click something in Revit and my dashboard goes over to a Layer, we simply click off the sync, the live link, and that functionality will be turned off. So with that, let me do a couple more housekeeping things real quick on the Layer platform. So we have Michael Calkins has joined us about 4 months ago. He actually joined us from Bluebeam. He headed up their Chicago office. He is now part of the Layer team, heading up our customer success. We now have a very robust library of quick tricks and tips, feedback from the community about different workflows that they're working on that might be applicable to the rest of the Layer community. And as always, if you run into a problem and simply need an answer, you simply click on send a message. Send that off, and Michael and his team will typically respond within that same hour. So again, we put a very big emphasis on customer service, knowing that everyone's unique, everyone has different workflows, and Michael and his team will really get to know what problem you're trying to solve, and again, customize that layer experience around your workflows. So how do we start inviting team members? So very quickly, I can go up under my teams category. And what we would do, we have two different ways to invite teams and manage team members. With the company users, what we would do is have all your company users preloaded on this drop-down list. As you would like to invite people to your project, you would simply select that person, give them whatever level of permissions you want. Contributor means you can add data. Editor means you can add data plus manipulate the forms that we have talked about. Or a viewer is a look but don't touch. Now let's go a step further. Back to my example of everyone using outside firms, outside key stakeholders. Layer knows the true power of the platform comes from when all your key stakeholders are in the platform adding that great data. So the idea behind the collaborators is now we have the users gets the ability to invite outside key stakeholders from outside their form or outside their firm. I would simply click the email or send the email. I can give them the same level of permissions as I do in my in-house people. When I invite them to the project, they'll accept that project. And the fantastic thing about this is a free seat for your consultant or your outside key stakeholders. We realize that our firms don't want to pass another cost along to their outside key stakeholders. So Layer has put this ability in to get everyone in to that project to really make this thing sing and become that much more efficient for you and your team. So with that, I'd like to talk very quickly about our pricing structure. If we go to Layer here. As a young organization, we're trying to be very aggressive with our pricing. Much like any other SaaS-based organization, we are a per seat, per month charge. We can either do annually and save yourself 20% or a monthly as well. A couple of the key highlights with the different levels. With the Essential and Pro, you'll get unlimited projects, unlimited elements, unlimited file storage. And the nice thing is with the Pro, you'll have a full year of revision history you're able to go back and audit. So if you remember the activity section that we looked at, you'll now have the ability to go back a year to really get the understanding of what happened. If there's any litigation that comes up, if there's any pressing issues after the fact, you now have access to everything without digging through your different file folders. The other thing I'd like to do here is notice the project collaborators. So again, with the Essential and the Pro, you'll get either 5 or 10 respectively to invite those outside key stakeholders into your project as well. For some of our bigger firms, they're looking for more of the unlimited project or the enterprise-wide deal, which we define as 20 or more seats. At that point, we'd like to get to know your organization and then customize the pricing around that as well.